I'd like to be on the open, if possible.
Yeah,
Oops. I kind of screwed up there. Sorry, I muted you. You can unmute there, but I'm gonna just turn it over to Mark, and we're ready to roll.
Thank you, John. Well, bonsoir, and we are delighted to have our Paris Heretics with us tonight. And as you guys know, we always warm up the mic for our feature. So before we get to that, I'm going to introduce my good friend, Jeffrey Wright. And Jeff received his MFA after studying with Allen Ginsberg, best known as a new romantic poet. He's also a publisher, critic, eco-activist, impresario, filmmaker, puppeteer, and artist. He's the author of 19 books of verse, including Blue Lyre and Party Everywhere. His poems have appeared in the Cafe Review, New American Writing, the Brooklyn Rail, Hurricane Review, Posit. His recent work also appears in the anthologies Best American Poetry, New York Insiders, and Contemporary Surrealist and Magical Realist Poetry. Jeff's latest work is a book of sonnets and artwork called Doppelgangster, which is out from my own Mad Hat Press. Jeff recently won the Sir Vision, his Sir Vision James Tate Prize book is already out. And Jeff publishes Live Mag.
Thanks, Mark. So good to see you, man.
And you.
And everybody else. And from all over the world, as usual, the great Lit Balm continues. I'm going to read this little wannabe sonnet. I say wannabe because it accidentally made it 15 lines. It happens, right? And also, the New Romantic is getting some little traction right now because of this David Caspar Friedrich show that's in New York. So suddenly people are talking about new romanticism again. So that's cool. This poem is called Hitch. Hitch. You came to me, twigs on the ground after a storm. You came to me, a meteor on your shoulder. I found you churning a tugboat, towing a river. Square zero. Make use of me, said the dummy. Amorous murmurs led to being counted on. Hugging the shore, ice on the deck, iron knee. Meet me at the bend. You came to me as a code, meant to be an ode. You will leave through a door made of tears, opening on evening's court. Night's ravenous ink, unleashed from the east, swallows the clock. Trust sorrow's long tail, curling up by your bed, waiting for your ship's heart to unmoor. A star or two is out now, secret keyholes from you. By the river, a high-rise hands the sky a black plume. And actually, it's tomorrow. Let's see what. Waiting for your heart's ship to unmoor. I said your ship's heart. So, Cassandra, I believe you put this reading together today. Is that correct?
I met Jason in Australia. So that's how we got to know one another. And yeah, we talked about him putting something together, which is fantastic that it's here.
Terrific. You really hook us up there, Cassandra. Cassandra Atherton is an award-winning poet, prose poet, and an international expert on prose poetry. Her prose poetry is widely anthologized and has been translated into Japanese, Chinese, and Korean. Cassandra has been published. She's published more than 30 books and is currently writing an illustrated book of prose poetry on the Hiroshima Maidens with funding from the Australia Council and the Victorian government. Cassandra co-wrote prose poetry, an introduction, and co-edited the Anthology of Australian Prose Poetry. She's commissioning editor for Westerly magazine and professor of writing and literature in Melbourne, Australia. Cassandra Atherton.
Thanks so much. I'm going to read a poem I was recently commissioned to write. It's called Hiroshima Sublime. and it's part of my Atomic Bomb poetry book that's coming together. First, there is nothing. Second, there is something, but it's nothing. I'm not writing anything. I'm writing everything. No one will read it. It will be forgotten by next year, next month, tomorrow, now. I remember everything. I see you drinking gin by the window. The bottle is pink like neon or cherry blossom, as pink as pinking shears. You cannot stay. I cannot leave. We meet in the in-between. We part in the periphery. The atomic bomb dome remains. In the memorial mound, the remains are at rest. I don't remember what you said to me. Hiroshima is a metonym. Hiroshima is the atomic bomb dome, cenotaph, and bone dust. Hiroshima is bottles of water on shrines. Hiroshima is the eternal flame. When the cloud is described as a mushroom, it's organic. When the cloud is identified as Dante's Inferno, it's literature. When it's nameless, it is man-made. It cannot be insured against. That State Farm policy. We walk through Hiroshima Peace Park and you take my hand in silence. The sun warps the brim of my hat. It quiets the cicadas. We leave, we return, we don't talk about it. In the Hiroshima Prince Hotel, you stand your toast on its side so it doesn't get soggy with heat. We're late to breakfast, just edging in before 10 o'clock, my hair a nest. You like your omelets wet, but I prefer miso soup and 3 silver pieces of smoked mackerel. After I pour a tomato sauce heart on your plate, you call me your coddled egg and we go back to our room. You straddle me in the blue of the Seto Inland Sea. I roll you onto your side and map the irregular coastline of your spine. I sleep with ghosts. I sleep in beds with outlines of others on the mattress. Our memories are redacted and we forget in black and white. I nap next to hollows in the middle of pillows. I am a pillow book. You are the lover. We begin to remember everything. I would like to introduce the intrepid Mark Vincennes, and those regulars who know his bio by heart may join in. We should have like one where we put all the microphones up and people can recite the bits they know. But here we go. Mark Vincennes is an Anglo-Swiss American poet, fiction writer, translator, editor, publisher, designer, multi-genre artist, and musician. He's published many books of poetry, translations, and fiction, including more recently, The Pearl Diver of Irun-Mani, The King of Prussia is Drunk on Stars, and The Mayfly Codex. Forthcoming poetry collections are Spells for the Wicked with Unlikely Books, Ironclad with Spite and Dival, All the Tricks of Language with Dos Madres Press, and No More Animal Poems with White Pine Press. A chapbook, Rocket Ship to the Andromeda Galaxy, was just released. Mark is also a prolific translator, and he translates from, I hear you say, German, Romanian, Spanish, Icelandic, and French. He has published 12 books of translations, most recently in Audible Blue Selected Poems 1963 to 2016 by award-winning Swiss poet and novelist. You know his name is Klaus Mertz, and it won the 2023 Massachusetts Book Prize for Translated Literature. His newest book of translations, In the House, Still Light by Klaus Mertz, is forthcoming in the fall. His own work has been translated into many languages, including Japanese, Chinese, Russian, French, Italian, Spanish, Romanian, Greek, German, and Icelandic. He's currently working on a novel entitled The Age of Occasions. Vincennes is editor and publisher of Mad Hat Press and publisher of New American Writing. He has lived all over the world, people. Join in, from Brazil to China to Iceland to India. He was born in Matilda Hospital on the Peak in Hong Kong, but now lives on a farm in rural western Massachusetts overlooking Herman Melville's Greylock Mountain, Melville's inspiration for Moby Dick, where there are still, wait for it, more eastern blackhead budworms, hesitant dagger moths, and dejected underwings than bipedal earthlings. Mark, you keep me on my toes. You change little bits and pieces. I love it.
Oh yeah, yeah. We got to phase in and phase out.
That's it.
So that was a beautiful poem, Cassandra. Let me see what I can do, and it kind of follows your train of thought. This is called A Dark Bird Speaks Cold Truths. Where are you? Are you somewhere? Where are you? Or are you somewhere? Where you are somewhere else? That's the first one, and there's another short one. And still there were other sparks. In the original fires, through augury and divination, the founding smiths discovered we were divinely ignited as the heavens parted like a spark to a pyre, the essence of our primeval selves seeded a barren, empty earth. But in that rocky prehistoric era, the Smiths say, volcanoes brewed and bubbled and sluiced, and eventually half the world was smoking, singed and melting. And they also say, we walked the white-hot lines with bare feet long before she cooled. And according to the Smiths, from the ashes emerged a bird whose fiery plumage lit up the atmospheres, created clouds and snows and incandescence. And across the planet, the bird was known by many names, from phoenix to griffin to the furarabi, or perhaps the 12-winged Chaltri, who apparently dwells near the surface of the sun. But we called her our dear Mother Oil, the will of the One, searing through the blood of earth. And later, to meet more popular demand, the Smiths invented other myths with rocket ships and aeroplanes and crypto-twits. And with these two, we metaphorically charged and re-entered the world again. But also, once again, in retaliation, the universe expanded. Every so often, she has to inhale. And for us too, eventually, it was not enough. That primal urge to seed goes beyond, deep into the great unknown, and beyond space and time and faith, beyond eternity, into a mirror of altered realities, until eventually we just burn out. And so I'm now delighted to introduce the gentleman that has put together this amazing crew over in Paris, Jason Stoneking. Jason will be reading at the end, but he has a few things to say about Paris Heretics, and just I'll do his bio now. Jason is a poet, diarist, and performer, originally from the United States, who has now made his home in Paris. He has published several collections of poetry and essays and has been performing internationally for more than 30 years. Recently, his practice concentrated on the creation of handwritten and site-specific texts. He is also the founder of the created label Paris Heretics. Thank you for joining us, Jason.
I had to unmute myself. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a pleasure hearing you all and getting to know the hosts who are hosting me. I suppose the only real important thing to say is that I founded this label Paris Heretics, which we produce books, albums, performances, video clips, short films as of this year, for the purpose of really trying to just give some amplification and opportunity to just the extremely talented artists I'm always encountering in the expat community here in Paris, who I feel like don't maybe get the institutional support that some of the French artists get, or some of the artists working in French might get here. And there are just so many people here in Paris whose work, blows me away, touches me, inspires me, changes my life. And I wanted to play an active role in seeing those people get amplified. And so I started the label, and then started trying to work with my favorite artists in Paris. And I'm very happy to say that 3 of them are with us here tonight. The first project we ever did was Alison Grace Koehler's first book, Stained Glass Poetry, which was an honor and a privilege to publish. Shortly after that, we published Loving Tallulah Bankhead, which was Carrie Chappell's second collection. And Carrie's one of the brightest poetic lights in Paris. I'm so proud to work with her. And Richard Dailey is a personal hero of mine, one of my favorite poets for decades, and somebody who's influenced me a great deal in my life. They're all people I'm very, very proud to have worked with on the label, and to have an excuse to assemble them all here and share them with you means a lot to me. So maybe I'll leave it there and let them share their work with you guys.
Thank you, Jason. That was great. So let me see. Who's reading next? Excuse me.
Richard's next. Richard's next.
Richard. That will be you, Jeff, for the bio. No?
Oh, okay, ready. I'm ready here. Richard Dailey, it was nice to meet all of you as well. And Jason, that was a wonderful rundown on you. Congratulations on all your efforts. What a nice opportunity to get to know about this. Richard Dailey is an American writer, artist, and independent filmmaker. His poetry, prose, art criticism, and photographs have appeared internationally in numerous journals. His films have been screened at festivals worldwide. He's had one-man shows of his art at Nathalie Nizewar's Bureau d'Art, Sometimes Studio, and Gallery Arnaud Lefebvre in Paris. Gay Paris. Please welcome Richard Dailey. From the Paris Heretics.
Rich might want to hit unmute.
Yeah.
From Paris Heretics.
I'm unmuted.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Nice to be here. Nice to see you all. Nice to share with you a sequence of 10 relatively short lyric poems that were published under the title To Hell with Reality and Back. To Hell with Reality and Back. 1. Proust's Silence. At the Grand Hotel, Proust took the 4 suites surrounding his to preserve the silence required for him to write. And apparently it was just silent enough, what with the sea and the plumbing and the sound of his organs keeping him alive, machine-like here in Baalbek, or in his cork-lined bedroom in Neuilly-sur-Seine, the same bedroom that was transported exactly as he left it to the Musée Carnavalet in the Marais, where I first saw it to my surprise, cordoned off with red velvet rope. The museum was quiet, not Proustian perhaps, but hushed to say the least. Small bed, wide enough, but a little short. The cork walls, unexciting brown. A dresser neither simple nor ornate. A bedside table and a small shaded lamp, and next to that, an ink pot and pen stand and pen. Oh, wow, I thought, can that possibly be the pen that Proust wrote with? I mean, there it was in easy reach. A simple metal nib on a wooden stem, except this was the pen the master used. I left the museum in a daze and went to Rougier and Play, the nearby art supply store, where I bought a similar pen in the calligraphy department. Then I returned to the still deserted museum and changed the pen I had just bought for Proust's pen. In 1993, honestly, nobody noticed. I took Proust's pen home and wrote a poem entitled Poem Written with Marcel Proust's Actual Pen. Then I returned to the museum and switched them back, leaving Proust's pen where I had found it. I walked back home and wrote a poem entitled The Same Poem Written with a New Pen, just like Marcel Proust's. None of this explains Proust's silence, or why he spent so much for it. 2. Game over. Start again. In February at 4 a.m., someone is anonymously walking their dog and you have them in your crosshairs. It's impossible to tell if the sandy dog or the person is male or female until the dog squats to pee and we see. The person pees too. He's male. We surely know that such insouciance in Paris in the middle of the night is misbegotten. even with a little beach for protection. What can they be thinking? Whatever it is probably not about the historic blood-soaked cobblestones or the ghosts, and they don't seem too preoccupied by the fact that we can take them out by pressing a key. Bada boom. Game over. Start again. This time, Wallace Stevens is reading Aeneas Nin with a shock of recognition. There she is, nude on Cape Cod by herself in the dunes, and a German opera singer, a true tenor, comes along belting out a tune from Tristan and Isolde, and Aeneas freaks because it isn't obvious where feeling and song and sea and tenor start or stop, or even if she is just making it all up. She's not. Stevens can assure her, because he heard the same thing on a beach in the Florida Keys, and here he is now relaxing in his armchair in his comfortable study with a bowl of pears beside him and some mediocre mid-century French paintings on the walls, and wow, can he relate. Game over. Start again. 3. Glass Brain and the Marquise. How very Pompeian to be so eternally here and breathing, living as they did, inside out and outside in, skin thin, so cleverly worn in and gone in a flash, the way one does want everything to go, completely seen through. Ha! Even vitrified by your most serious longing, it's all lovely sleight of hand, like the bouquets tossed off by the marquise. She knows better than to bore you with poetry. She's been there before. She likes her nature à la Jean-Honoré Fragonard, and she should know. She put the pomp in Pompadour, again, just for you. And she'll keep your glass brain on the mantel to show her guests after dinner when, satiated, everybody loves a good story, like this. Four, mind over matter. Einstein's brain is matter in a mason jar in Kansas, where Dr. Harvey keeps it hidden in a Playmate cooler in his apartment. The brain he stole after Einstein's autopsy in Princeton and before his cremation. Einstein's son forgave Harvey in the end and only asked that he make his father's brain available to science, but Harvey didn't, mad as a doctor leaping to life from Bill Burroughs' books. Burroughs, his neighbor, with whom Harvey drank bullshitting the afternoons away on Bill's front porch. Burroughs bragged he owned a piece of Einstein's brain, coveted far and wide by Kenji Sugimoto, the man who traveled the earth in search of that missing organ, tracking it down in Kansas, where Harvey sliced him off a piece with a kitchen knife on a cheese board and put it in a Tupperware. Sugimoto was over the moon. He loved Einstein. He said so many times, transported. To celebrate, he went to a karaoke bar in downtown Wichita where, in barely comprehensible English, he told everyone of his success. He was possessed. His love was a belief, and his belief was love. Einstein was a distortion field in a galaxy so remote his death would take light years to arrive. Burroughs and Harvey chuckled on the porch thinking about Sugimoto, his quest, his love so simultaneously elevating and debasing. Einstein's life was now retrocausality incarnate. His death created him from the beginning, like someone in a book by Bill perhaps, a book that makes bells ring. 5, the portmanteau world. Pataphysical push-me, pull-yous postulate like Woodstock from Peanuts in bird chirps and chants, apostrophical code, dit, dot, dash, soul toots and hoots, all Gillespie. Sun and moon marry cognitive dissidents tromboned into black honey on golden mountains where little Lolita is talking donkey and Apollo is a rock star, ontological shrug huggers, all looking for the same thing, which is something else. I must read more philosophy, die trying. I must right, wrong, sober. Honeymoon me, no other. Arms windmilling and punch like black on white. countless syllables, crinkled leaves, and left brain, right brain, marching to the never-ending end-all, molecules lined up, saluting. If this much is real, I can leave and come back, and it will still be here. And if it all seems different, I am different. And if I am unchanged, the thunder in the suitcase was right all along. Emoji, speak, demotic, hieroglyphics, there. 6, the old Polaroid. Nobody is 30 yet, and we're poetically drunk, and the night has just begun, and no one is fat or crazy or sick or dead. 7, the comeback problem. What if it's not even a problem and you never left in the first place? Surfing ontological indeterminacy like an underground hippie, promenading with Poulenc in full sunlight. Even if one's brain could hold it all, as in a Bosch painting, the eye would flit from detail to detail, leaving a comet's tail of nevermore or never was, all romantically distilled. A solitary daffodil, sun obliterating emotion, moon teasing out the dream, sunrise and sunset and moonrise and moonset, galactic sex in a gutter, flashing black and yellow, frenetic and forced as Geison's dream machine. Everyone's head is a block universe where poets replace God with man and poets replace man with void, and what's at hand is always hell and heaven and exquisite purgatory, the wished-for words on a red-hot bed, booming and booming, pink lakes. Oh, that is enough. Those moments with a reeling poet and the misconceived business all goes right out the window. Try being Wallace Stevens reading T.S. Eliot. Try being John Ashbery reading Wallace Stevens. Purgatory is the most Proustian siesta. Purgatory is a nude descending a staircase, which proves we've been here forever. We never left. We never get to the top or the bottom. We sashay like lobsters with our tambourines, so hot, so sad. Flamenco in Iceland, love in the hand. Come back. Eight, title without a poem. The innocent young they, transsexual and work of art, loses their virtual virginity in a peak of schadenfreude on social platforms, and nobody clicks love or shares. 9, parenthetical forevers. A woman and a man meeting gee whiz unscreened is otherworldly from the neck up. The question of below left blank on the application. Oceanic as old school think again. The glamorous grammar of touchables, infinite love, silver and black, never out of bed, weightless in your hand, ancient totem unbroken. How far, how much remaining we, the plural singulars of nothing and everything, sexualized vagaries in an empty palace of light? It will always be again, always was. Sperm, milk, blood, shit, piss, sweat. Ten, the Silver Bridge. The Silver Bridge was the moon that night on the Aegean Sea, as the moonlight is tonight in the Algarve, where my moon mind reflects and by reflecting sees the Silver Bridge slatted on the waters from here to there, from now to then, a Proustian parallelogram in architectural intemporal triumph once again. There is no paradise but this paradise that bears no fruit, this moon mind the sun makes real, the sun that no one sees, the sun that is always on the dark side. The Silver Bridge stretches tonight to Africa. Armona and Milos share this douceur, night warm enough to sleep outside under a single sheet, like a dreaming ghost, almost not here or here. Voila.
That was amazing. I think the next one, next person to read is Alison.
That is correct. Alison Grace Koehler is an artist who uses broken shards in poetry to create stained glass windows and performances. Her first book, Stained Glass Poetry, bridges these two worlds, as does her spoken word album, Stained Glass Arrangements, both produced by Paris Heretics. Alison recently released her second poetry book and an album, Secret Space, in collaboration with Benjamin Dwyer and produced by Farpoint Recordings in Dublin, Ireland, I think. Born in Chicago, Alison currently lives and works in Paris, France. Welcome, Alison.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lit Balm and Paris Heretics, for having me here this evening or this day. Great hearing you read, Rich. Here's my glass brain. I will be reading first from Stained Glass Poetry. Two pieces. With me, I also have the album Stained Glass Arrangements, which you can maybe see. Oops. Maybe not. Wait a second. Just wanted to show off the work of Paris Heretics. Oh, it's really disappearing. Well, it's a vinyl. It looks like glass. I will be reading two poems that were from the book and then also later part of the spoken word album. But I will be reading them in the raw. All I can see is the white silicone, gluing together everything unanticipated. Covered wood, painted poivre, straight lines you would never give without demand. Scraping the lead sides while nettles soften in butter. And you pretend you are wearing only an apron, guarded from every grandmother behind tinted sand. You foresaw nothing past the flowers because you aren't a maker of doors, lazy about craft or responsibility, but you aren't a child either, simply because tenderness makes us strip and scream. What can be made? Material is so much nothing. Molten tin will. How much do you trust your self-doubt? No truth to not reach for, and perceived disappointment is always your own. So give us the ones with more space between each rainbow. You know what to ask. You know what is a farm ghost imagined, and what is, and what can be. Bloody knuckles. The start of a Monday painted blue, rage about blue chips and blueberries. Wrestlers make love in song, never more than half begun. 3D baptism, the difficult thing. Love, sex, dried flowers, on ad copy for jewels. Next door, the universe. Sewn into luxury brand fabric, draped above the tip of our longest upreaching arms. So always unintentional. How much do you value by doing nothing? Culture stuffed inside coat sleeves, all for the price of time. Here. So the next thing I'm going to be reading is from a series of confessions. It's a project that's been put on hold, but this one in particular felt like not the easiest thing to read, but the most relevant to what I'm living at this particular moment in time. I'm reading from Chicago, inside the home where I grew up. And so it felt like, yeah, the more difficult, but maybe the most appropriate thing to read at this moment. So here it is. Confession number 6. I spoke with my dad tonight. He told me that what he is living right now is unprecedented. I suppose everything is in some way. It probably makes no sense to dig into his troubles now here. One thing I find difficult to understand is how astounded he seems to be that things are so difficult. Normal things, normal human first world problems like mortgages and hearing loss, in struggling to write a book. Why does he seem perpetually shocked that life is difficult? Why does everything spiral him into a state of inertia? And what does this have to do with me? Another uncertain confession, reaching for a focus, dropping it, losing it. He promised to write about his frustrations, to try to dig towards their core. I said I would try to do the same. So here, I'm not sure. I'm frustrated that I don't know if my father is still able to take care of himself. I'm trying to find ways to get him to deal with things before they continue to get worse, before he no longer can. Someday I will be alone to care for him the way he was once alone to care for me. He gave me a lot of trust and confidence early. I resent having to become the parent. I may never have children. Maybe caring for my father as he grows old will be the closest experience of motherhood that I will ever have. He is 73. He is between the ages his parents were when they each died. He doesn't know how to write the book he needs to write. I don't think it needs to be about restorative justice. I mean, perhaps it does, but I think he'll only find the words to reach out by reaching more deeply in. I am not showing my vulnerable spaces either. Maybe I am. Maybe I am trying. It is hard to see if I don't think I am confident about this project. I've also begun to doubt the why of being here in France. There is no clear alternative. Why is there discontent? How to face it? What are the things I need to accept? Who am I? What would it be like to truly live here on my own? I am afraid of foreigners' invisibility. I have been taken care of like a child. Do I still appear young because I have been spared certain sorts of responsibility? Is that even true? We are all children every day of our lives. We are other things too. A girl of 33, a daughter of. This morning, I was told that when my thighs cover the ears of this person whose name I will omit, it is like being underwater. It is like floating on the surface of a body of water, looking up at the sky, a paused, soundless moment because your ears are under. There is only your body falling up in communion with air and clouds and infinity. What of the ground? Obligations are concrete. This sweater is like some mammal's downy underbelly. There is so much mediocre. We all want credit for our efforts, for our existence. It is all so pretty and What is big and what is? One hair on the surface of this loosely knitted shawl. Everything belonged to my grandmother. Everything was sand. Who will show me how to? They wouldn't be trusted. Our attention spans are in sore trouble. I no longer. There is still some sparkle on my nails. I wonder when the final traces will disappear. I do not know what I'm trying to examine. Have I stepped towards any core of the feeling of being of not perceived, to be seen, to be misseen, to be called Aurélien, a French man in a white sweater with puffy sleeves, sitting in on a meeting about street art, in which organizers of a grocery store cooperative talk more than they listen, admitting that they aren't really involved in art. The tolerance for listening to what is boring, even when some aspects must be undeniably, ethically good. Reaching for a better world, where we all work at a grocery store in order to annihilate capitalism. I would like to be paid to make my art. What is your most dark bourgeois secret? Does your aunt buy you sweaters too? Half of them were once your grandmother's. The other half cannot be vouched for. You accept. Who is the you and who is the I? Maybe this is moving somewhere. Do your pajama bottoms contain stars? Does your t-shirt have a shield made of stained glass that flew with you from Lithuania, the land of your ancestors, who were nomads, who were never allowed a home?
All right, Lithuania in the house.
Thank you.
Thank
If there is time, I was going to read something very, very
I'm
short.
sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. Maybe that's the best way to end. I just had one short piece that I wrote just while I've been here, but it's brief. A warm crossed rose exit reflection inside a suburban church. Streaky glass, yellow, green, glory to blue, cold day sky. Silence, but the birds. Does this count as prayer? For the hole in my father's ceiling. Look up and see the light. So many losing health. A medallion with a menorah, a blue, purple A, emptiness, motifs, number 2 pencils, that orange, yellow, rigid, envelopes for donations. Take these bottles of holy water with glitter, 1 per family. Style of money, luxurious wooden arches, solace, quietly go after, ambition, ignore, want but do nothing, however we use these hours. Ooh, some mouse-like noises, stretched to a pause, a pain, a pancake, a sighing stomach, a why. Thank you.
Why? Thank you, Alison. Terrific stuff there, huh? All right. So moving along here with another one of our Parisians from America. Carrie, did you say Chappelle, like David Chappelle or Chappelle? Where is she? Okay. Anyway, Carrie is a poet.
Chapel.
Chappell. Thank you. Like the hill. Okay. Carrie Chappell. Sorry about that. Is a poet, essayist, translator, editor, and educator. She's the author of Loving Tallulah Bankhead from Paris Heretics in 2022 and Quarantine Daybook from Bottle Cap Press in 2021. With Amanda Murphy, Carrie co-translated Cassandra at Point Blank Range by Sandra Musempe from Dialogos 2025. As a current doctoral student in French literature at CY Sergi Paris University, Carrie is working on a research creation project around the poetic novels of Helena Besset. All right, let's hear from Carrie Chappell.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. And yes, thank you, Lit Balm, and thank you, Paris Heretics. Jason mentioned that he was profiling expatriate artist in Paris who needed a home, I guess, for their work. But it's always a huge pleasure to work with Jason, and you'll hear his work later. I'm in the middle of projects, so I am not going to read from Tulu Bankhead. I'm going to read some work that has become sort of research poems because I am working on a doctorate a bit later in life, and I'm not a researcher by training, and so I don't really know what I'm doing, but I do know how to go into the poem a little bit to try to find just like find my like touch the ground. So that's what I'm trying to do, and so all of these poems that I'm going to read tonight, I think I'm going to just try to do 3, are about Hélène Besset. So Hélène Besset, Hélène Besset. And I will have to introduce a few things maybe because there's some French incorporated. So I'll be that annoying person who lives in Paris who wants to use French words. But they're a part of my brain and how I think, and they're part of why I love working with Hélène Besset's work. She's sort of like the French I believe in speaking. So this is the first poem I'll read, and it's from her novel. It's inspired by, she uses interesting capitalization, and they're novels in verse or poetic novels. But sometimes she'll just have these all caps statements like a woman screaming in the middle of her work, and I can identify. And this one's inspired from a line that says "J'ai tous les torts," and the poem is about a certain translation action that I wanted to take with this, about thinking of my origins in Alabama. So I translated "J'ai tous les torts," and tort is sort of like all of the faults or the, I don't know, yeah, faults maybe. But I wanted to make it a little bit more Southern American, so I've made it, I have all the flaws, like y'all, I have all the flaws. So this is I have all the flaws, and it's the first pantoum that I've written in like 10 years, so it was fun to go back to something formal. I have all the flaws. I wanted to translate Hélène Besset into Alabamian. I wanted to be a woman now and not in their margins of grief. But my reading eye and my writing eye and my woman eye all killed themselves. Our book died in my hands, and my hands died in my hands. I wanted to die a woman now and not in their margins of grief. But my body was full of weather, a hailstorm, many precipitations. So the book died in my hands, and my hands died in my druthers. My body, by virtue of being my body, had riddled the stalls of capitalism. But my body was full of weather, a hailstorm, many precipitations. I laid myself down in the room for dying, with a word like a drum on my tongue. My body, by virtue of being my body, had riddled the stalls of capitalism. The word was my dirge. Bredouille, bredouille, bredouille. I laid myself down in the room for dying, with it on my tongue like a drum. After, I ran into my mother in the eyes of a woman screaming in Barbès. A word was my dirge. Ruined, ruined, ruined. I wanted to translate Hélène Besset into Alabamian. Okay. The next one also requires maybe like a quick French lesson. So this is also from her novel Si. C would mean it's SI, and it's just if. Yes, if that I think is a simple translation, whether you're doing Alabamian or like something from Australia, maybe it's if. But there's a moment in the latter part of the book where she talks about la femme, so the woman, aux yeux, both eyes, plural, orange. So it should make, in French, because it's a romantic language, the adjective should match the plural of the eyes. But Ellen Bessette, because she likes to screw with people, decided to leave off the S, and bravo to all of her editors for sticking with this choice. They didn't correct her. She did something purposeful here, and I'm intrigued by it. So this is called La Femme aux yeux orange without the S on orange. Okay, so it just looks like how we see it, orange, like the color. The first time I mistranslated Ellen Bessette, I called her poet and not novelist. I guess I was confused by her lines, except that they seemed to me, and still do, to contain some of the most important verse on the condition of being a woman who must drive back the plot of her own distortion. The second time I mistranslated her, I refused to carry suite into English. I was tired of my mother tongue, so I left the French word on my page in orange, like an open tulip about to droop. I had thought I could be her translator, and then the man who was in charge of her future didn't reply to my emails. March 2019, July 2019, December 2021. Puis, I didn't have the rights. And so many people in literature will shoot your horse in the head over the rights. I told myself it would make me more Bessettian to be this ignored, but I eat that realization every day like a pile of glass. To be quite honest, it wasn't until 2023 when I saw her name go up on a plaque in the 6th arrondissement that I finally conceded romancière. I guess I was ready to listen, really listen to her. She is the novelist. I am the poet. I had wanted kinship at every door, follement, but I botched the transfusion. We have got to stop trying to write over a woman's mind. And yet, that's what I maintain translation is, though no one, and I mean almost no one, likes to hear that. The academics tell me there is already so much talk of loss in translation, as if I, cornered into a smallness like every other Alabamian, was attempting to say something institutionally damaging. But I've stopped talking about it for now, except in poems. I'm developing a color theory, and am sitting with the rage of this woman who reminds me of myself, though I will not force her to resemble me. I'll just enjoy Bessette's withholding, her missing S, like a key to the book she held in her mouth. I'll read her out loud and feel it myself. The copper like blood, the blood like grammar. The grammar like the form of a woman qui ne s'accorde pas. And the last one I'll read is from another novel of hers that is called Ida, or Ida, as the French would say it. And Ida is a character, very Bessettian, who is a domestic worker. She's a, yes, probably more like a maid or somebody that takes care of family house business. And she has a big problem. She always walks the streets of maybe unnamed metropolis, looking at her feet. And her boss always tells her, you must stop this. If you keep looking at your feet, you're going to get run over. And it's not a spoiler because the book starts with this, like page 3. She does get run over and she dies. And then the rest of the book is people trying to piece together who is Ida. And she's called like a poet of the night. She's called a bird. She's called all these things. And one thing they recall about her is that she has a beige coat, that she had a beige coat. And And it's one of the things that they kind of like remark about and call elegant, this one elegance she's afforded. And so Bessette writes in the voice of the boss woman, or I can't remember if it's exactly the boss woman, but one of these people who's commenting on Ida's life, that the coat was in one of these very comfortable beige colors. So it's dans ces beige confortable, after Hélène Bessette's Ida. The hinge of the glass door makes a noise each night when we come home, each night when we march wrathfully in. Yes, makes a noise, as if it wanted a singular tourism of light, not our bodies nagging with their questions from our beige depths, looking for the solace of our beige rooms where we eat beige dinners, vaguely kebabbed, along with the others across the way, beigely stacked in rows we call a city of light. Yes, lights refracting beige. Yes, the hinge grinces at us and we try our laughing at others and our beige fights after beige lovemaking hued momentarily by the topness of orifices, of songs festering in the cranny of pages gallimardeuses, the yawn of their spines across the hours. We write these lives, accruing the écru of convenient longing, pitching sheets like coats over the corpses of dreams. These are some of the Bessette poems. Thank you very much for letting me read them, trying them out here.
Superb. Wonderful reading. Actually, now it's Jason's turn to read himself, right? The Grand Wizard of Paris Heretics. So unmute yourself and let's hear what you got, man.
All right, I'm just gathering my breath. I gotta say thanks firstly to Rich and Alison and Carrie, who I mean, what great work. All three of you you're all artists who have dug very deeply inside yourselves and found things that that helped me push my mind in different directions. And you're all people I've learned a lot from, and it's really a pleasure to be here with the three of you. So that said, I think it might have been mentioned briefly in my bio, but I'm writing in a few different series of handwritten texts now. That's my main focus. I write sort of site-specific single draft things by hand in a few different types of process. And the series I've been most focused on this year has been a series of portrait sittings where people sit with me like they might for a painter or a photographer, except that they can move around. I observe them and I write portraits in words of people by hand. There's a few people here. I've written Zach's portrait and Mason's, and a few people here that I've written about. Oh, Zach's guy is cool. And I really enjoy the process very much. It's about a lot of things for me, but very much about being in the moment with somebody and searching for maybe the poetic / empathetic bridge that might sort of join our realities. I think a lot about the fact that we look at each other. It's so rare that we look at each other deeply anymore in society, and how awkward that can feel. And so I'm trying to explore that. So I'll stop with all the prefacing, but that's to say that I decided to share some portraits with you tonight. And since I have written about all three of my fellow heretics who have read here tonight, I decided to read you my portraits of them. So I have my portrait of Alison, my portrait of Carrie, and my portrait of Rich, which they have been kind enough to allow me to read. I don't have them because there's only one copy, and they have them, so they've allowed me to read from photographs and to share with you these moments that we shared together. I think I'm going to read them chronologically. And Alison was the first person to pose for me in this project. I began exploring this work during the pandemic, and it was very hard to get into rooms with people. And she proposed posing for a portrait over a Zoom call. And so now it's sort of a live thing, but this early one I wrote of Alison over Zoom. Portrait of Alison Koehler, November 28th, 2020. She is aware of her audience. She makes eye contact with the camera through which I watch her. Amused by the predicament, she occasionally laughs, but otherwise sits very still. Her composure is detailed. The angle at which she cocks her head is familiar and precise. The gaze that she fixes directly on her watcher is both searching and sure. For someone skeptical of intentionality, there is little accident in the placement of her limbs or the measured degrees of swivel in her neck. She is curious but controlled, as though she is accustomed to waiting. She hides things well, but not completely and not for long. The book she picks up is 1,000 years old and not out of place in her hands. She carries an ancient restlessness, a defiance with deep roots, but she doesn't focus long on the reading. Her thoughts are pulled by my presence. She displays the book and reacts visibly to its contents. She finds it difficult to ignore me or to ignore the fact that she is being seen. She is at turns coy, performative, poised, but never detached. Her smiles are sometimes born nervously, but catch themselves flirtatiously in a quick process. She revises herself in motion. When she returns to her stillness, her presence radiates from deep within, growing to fill the space around her. Something will make her smile, and she will flash light in all directions, casually, as if unaware of this particular one of her powers. Then another thought will take her attention down into a slow, deep inner current. There's a hint of sorrowful boredom that she seems to have to shake off now and then. After an hour, she curls up in a shawl on the couch, trustingly, not play acting, just a little cold and tired and vulnerable. She can be soft, open, but can doubt herself and suddenly apply a layer of awareness to her comportment. She can easily adjust and refresh the surface that she presents, but then gradually relaxes back into a depth where the majority of her really sits, where she is not sure that anyone sees, where she is not always sure what she herself sees. She is fascinated by someone looking at her, in part because she sits in a space where things don't feel clearly visible, which forces her to wonder if we are seeing her or only our own projections. But she appreciates an effort on the part of her witness. A human interaction can make her feel alive. She enjoys being pulled from her depths, as long as she knows that she can get back to them when she needs to. She holds things in them that make her feel safe. That's the first portrait. The first it's hard to believe a few years ago now. So, but that I've been writing more and more of them, and over the years, been trying to get all my favorite people. So the next one, chronologically in this group anyway, is my portrait of Carrie, which is from a couple of years ago. Let me pull it up here. Portrait of Carrie Chappell, November 30th, 2022. She sits at an old wooden table, leaning one elbow into its surface with one leg crossed, consulting her notes from one notebook as she writes into another. 3 candles illuminate the pages while a soft autumn light falls in through the window to meet them halfway across the table. She is at home in her habitual working space and is relaxed, though her posture is dignified. When she pauses to look out the window for a moment, she holds her head high with a hint of unforced nobility. She thoughtfully considers what she reads, and when she writes, the gesture is decisive. She checks back through the previous pages, reacquainting herself with her progress before continuing onto each new step in her work. She disciplines her attention. When her focus wavers, she pushes herself to regather it, determined not to waste the rare minutes of quiet and concentration. She wears a smart-looking vest and turtleneck, but is polka-dot sock-footed, and her demeanor is matchingly both serious and soft. She occasionally casts her gaze into the distance and plummets deeply inward, then quickly returns and resumes contact with the objects in her vicinity. She is amused by something she finds in the notebook and smiles. She picks up a book by Virginia Woolf, reads from it for a few minutes, then carefully marks one of its passages with a pencil. Then she walks over to the kitchen, ties her hair back, and chops up an onion to add to the soup she's making for lunch. Her movements with the knife, as with the pen, are deliberate, competent. Waiting for her soup to cook, she puts her work away and puts an old jazz record on the turntable, allowing herself a moment of pleasure. She sits cross-legged in the window and bursts into a delighted laugh upon receiving a cute photo of her brother's baby over the phone. But she's not unoccupied for long before setting herself about some household chores. She is in the habit of using her time efficiently, constructively. She is energetic, but measured, dosing herself into an assortment of tasks and pursuits that express a landscape of intellectual and emotional priorities where she is always fine-tuning the balance, trying to be present for all the depths and degrees of who she is. These are, it's some, I haven't seen these since I wrote them, and it's kind of an amazing experience to go back and revisit the moments and the feelings involved. So the last one I want to share with you is my portrait of Rich. I think I somehow failed to mention this in my introduction earlier, but one of the most recent projects we did with Paris Heretics is we made a 30-minute documentary film about Rich because he was living here in Paris making art for some 40 years and then recently moved away to the south of France, which was a huge loss for our community here. And so we got a little team together and went down there with a camera and followed him out into the country to see what he was up to and sort of demand to know, what he'd left us for and whether it was worth it and all that kind of thing. And found him down there working in an art studio in his home, where he's making a whole new series of several different kinds of work and still continuing to create and inspire and generate energy in this new environment. And so recently I had the chance to go down there and visit him in that place and write his portrait there. And that's going to be the last thing I read for you. Excuse me. Portrait of Richard Dailey, December 8th, 2024. A winter day in the south of France, and Rich is at work in the studio space of his presbytery home in Saint-Vincent-du-Pondy. The doors and curtains are closed against the cold, and Rich is bundled up in a hat, coat, and scarf. A playlist of psychedelic Middle Eastern guitar music plays as he applies a layer of oil pastel to the new piece he's working on. He smears a thick disk of color onto the paper, slowing his motion near the edges to carefully define its shape. He then takes a sharp blade and shaves some flecks of pigment from the stick onto his work surface. His movements around the space are calm and methodical. He knows his materials and the effect he wants from them. The walls around him are covered with finished and partially finished pieces from this series. More brightly colored discs of various sizes, all vibrating in conversation with each other across the space. Rich adds splashes of red and gold to his composition with confident, decisive gestures. He arrives quickly at a result that appears to be satisfactory until he mentions out loud that it isn't. His confidence is in the continued exploration of the process, even if it leads to some pieces that he likes less than others. This one gets busier as he attacks it with more and more colors in his investigation. He uses glass paint, oil and chalk pastels, watercolor, shavings, all in the same image at the same time. Some drawn on, some squirted, sprinkled, worked into the picture with his fingers. Everything is allowed. And when he feels he's done all he can to the piece of paper, he simply pulls out another one and keeps going. It won't be until later that he decides what he likes. For now, he is dancing with an open question, filling his next large page with bright orange and purple, interrogating as many possibilities as time will allow. His hands manipulate the tools with ease, but there's work being done on the inside, where he asks himself to respond to the visions that emerge from his handiwork, to complete the circuit of expression and self-comprehension. Somehow, he keeps surprising himself. His reaction to his own output is inconsistent. And it is in this constant potential for either delight or disappointment that he is free. Thank you guys for allowing me to write those portraits of you and to share them here this evening. That last one, actually, Carrie is the editor of a series called Verse of April that in the month of April, next month, is going to be including that piece about Rich, along with a video that we made to go with it. So you'll have a chance to check that out at that point. All right, I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Jason. That was fantastic. We'd like to thank Jason particularly, but also Alison, Rich, and Carrie for joining us tonight. And now we're going to hear from one of our regulars who's also our technical director, John Wessick, who's written over 1 million words in poems, short stories, and novels. Hundreds of his works have appeared in journals such as the I-70 Review, New Verse News, Patterson Literary Review, and Unlikely Stories. He is a regional editor of the San Diego Poetry Annual, and he's also host of Gelato East Fiction Open Mic. His latest book, Reductio ad Absurdum, is a collection of parodies. He lives in Manchester, New Hampshire, and longs for gene editing to bring giant wombats back from extinction. Welcome again, John.
Thank you, Mark. Those are the Diprotodon. Anyway, I put a link to my book in the chat, and I will just read a little bit from it. I paid the check and drove to Quito, Ecuador's house. When I stepped onto the porch, I noticed a 7-by-4-foot hole shaped like the cross-section of a rhinoceros in the faux adobe wall. It was too late for a social call, but blackmailers should expect guests at all hours. When no one answered the doorbell, I stepped through the hole. In the living room, couches, chairs, and bookshelves lay in disarray as if an odd-toed ungulate had tried to navigate without a red-billed oxpecker sitting on his back to give directions. I followed the tracks into the study and found Quito, Ecuador's corpse lying on the Persian carpet. In death, his face had the shade of a raw pork chop, and blood from the wound in his belly had soaked his tweed jacket, turning it the color of pancetta, corned beef, or sopressata. On the plus side, his silk handkerchief was undamaged and would make an excellent present for one of those office get-togethers when you're too busy to buy a box of drugstore chocolates. I logged onto his laptop with the username guest and password, but found no kinky images. I logged off and stared at a splash screen of two bonobos grooming each other. I didn't call the cops. They'd only accuse me of stealing a rhino, transporting it to Escondido on a flatbed truck, enticing it to murder Quito, Ecuador, and then returning it to the zoo without anyone noticing. I'd seen how California juries work and didn't want to take the chance. I searched Quito, Ecuador's desk, found a coded notebook and a paperback about Area 51. I wiped off my fingerprints with a tissue and left. Thank you.
Always love it, John. Stealing a rhino shenanigans. That's always special. Thank you so much. We're gonna go into Zach next. Zach, who has been in Los Angeles and is now in Newcastle, one of my favorite spots in Australia, Newcastle. So glorious. I could easily live there. So what have you got for us, Zach?
Hi, hello everyone. Look, tonight I'm going to share a poem with you that I wrote called The Pulse of Newcastle. Now, I can trace my poetry all the way back to September 31st of last year, where I wrote my first poem for our feature poet, Jason Stoneking. And from there, the floodgates opened. So this was my best experience writing, just wandering the streets, listening to people, making observations, bit of gonzo poetry, as I call it, or winging it. So here we go, a poem named The Pulse of Newcastle. The beginning, the alpha and the omega. Nothing that grand here, just a piece to get a pulse of the inhabitants of where I live. Saturday mid-morning, where the magpies coalesce, singing, cawing, and chortles ensue. I'm fairly to pretty sure the building across the way hides ancient horrors. Echoing inside my mind, a grumpy man is muttering, "Jesus Christ, man," at three people walking across the footpath. He doesn't even have a year's experience. What's that show based on that song of a really famous Australian person? I run into a person I know only on a computer, therefore no conversation follows. Wheeler Place churns and spits out screaming teenagers on what can only be classed as motorcycles. A clock chimes 10 times to the cadence of its victims' tears. I'm wading through tree cum to find a good crowd downtown. There must be more Kiwi on this planet than people on these streets. 4 across the footpath now. I'm going to have to get tactical. An impatient bus carrying who knows who bottoms out on a speed bump. No, I'm just saying that I've pushed you out long enough. I'm going to the beach. More screaming kids on motorcycles roaring across the tram track. Survival of the fittest. I feel like going to a pub where there are people drinking beer. A dog lumbers past me, just like its owner. Quite adorable. So you don't need dinner then? A woman says to a computer on speaker for all the world to hear. A weapon of mass destruction is guided out to sea, blocking the harbour. There are no arrests. I'm lifting you up, I'm putting you down. An angelic vibration at the gas holder. The Terminus Hotel sounds like something terminal. 5 across the footpath now. This shit is getting dangerous and my tactics aren't working. Drinking everything just to heal your mind. Another angel sings at Kate and Cole. I'm sensing a theme here. Am I dying today? Well, there is a pulse today in Newcastle. It's slow moving and flows easy, but it is there.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. I can't believe you're a newbie poet. You don't sound like one at all. But I kind of thought of it like Newcastle spleen. I kind of think of it like that kind of Paris spleeny kind of moment there for us Australians. Thank you. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Next, we have Vicky. She has such a diverse earth. We never know what she's going to give us. It could be somber. It could be jovial. I'm not sure, Vicky. What is it this week?
Hi there. It's a short homage to the Chinese and their invention of an amazing color called celadon, which they decorated their ceramics with. And I was struck by the story of an 18th century ship that went down, I think, in the Atlantic, bringing so much of this stuff over to us, and it sank. And 200 years later, all the ceramics were found in perfect condition, no change at all. Amazing. So this is called Mise, or mysterious color. The rules of relics are confusing, and the talking jars don't help either. A subterranean spider's web, which I hadn't really understood at all, and I hated it when I first saw it. Even through the pollution, I could see the rebuilt temple. Imagine you are invincible, showered in golden particles, surrounded by silks. Everything is precious, even the celadon bowls, as they slowly sink into the grey-green sea.
Wow, that's so evocative. I do love a bit of a relic. I would like to try some champagne that's been aged in the sea. There's plenty of shipwrecks with some champagne. Apparently, it's becoming quite popular here. So,
Me too.
I loved the imagery. Thank you, Vicky. Next, we have Peter. I don't know what Peter's got for us because he is new to the open tonight. So, Peter.
Hey, how you doing? I'm
Thanks.
Peter Mara, actually. I couldn't change the name on Zoom, but I'm going to read from my new book that just came out. It's called The Dirty Diary of Ordinary Days. And it was published by Incunabula Press. And it's about my time spent in the Times Square and East Village of New York City in the 70s and 80s and my friendship with an adult film actress. So this piece is called A Kiss for Saint Sebastian, Our Lady of the Peep Show, 1979 to 1983. She dreamed an opera of bloodshed. She dreamed an orgy of violence and mayhem. The neon billboards rupturing and spilling psychedelic debris over the masses, scarring the innocent and guilty alike. Piercing the degenerate darkness, she tasted the sins of the evening. Getting closer to the beginning, not the finale. Unknown, disembodied, not familiar to her or me. Another jolt to fight the exhaustion. Keep going, teeth grinding. To live more, come harder, another poke so we can come down. Some reds, be comatose for the next 24 hours. On amphetamines and in New York City, 79 to 83. Disemboweled by her own hand. Baby, my baby's gone. Her own hands clutching, heaving, latex encased face looking for sentiment from the great pretender. The first arrow penetrated the left thigh, the second arrow the upper right arm. Blood trickled slowly. She desired a taste. Saint Sebastian said not a word. A Pied Piper strolled by. The silence of the last clock rewound, buried under the sand at Steeplechase, Coney Island. That's what she was longing for, the things her parents had told her about. It was changed. The scenery had morphed, like that time when she was a child, when she went for a ride at the Coney Island Carousel and stared in fascination at the ride operator who sported track marks on his arms and carried a Bowie knife strapped to his belt on the right side. He was relaxing as he ate a meatball hero. Scream for me. Remembering this when she was 18 made her all tingly. Political aberrations mouthing on the TV, Slimy fuckers repelled her sight and blinded her. Better to be in the plexiglass peep boots, bred, playing with herself, feigning enthusiasm. This gave her solace, even though she knew she had become a commodity. This nagged and ate at the back of her thoughts, always an underlayer of fear and discomfort. The sight of that last cock trying to impress me. They were separated by clear 1-inch thick plastic. Pathetic loser. He's so embarrassed. He knows how sad he is, and he ran out of tokens. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I do love Coney Island. I have been on the hurricane and survived it. I'm very happy about that.
I grew up near there, actually.
Cindy's from around there as well. She says, I know that we've talked a little bit about Coney Island, Cindy. So, and I loved the Pied Piper cameo. I thought that was really funny.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Linda. We have our Beat Poet Laureate with us, but she sometimes gives us something entirely different. What have you got for us, Linda?
Well, it's not a beat poem, and it's not Celadon, but it's different shades of blue. My vessel is a kayak. My vessel is indigo blue, pond, lake, slow stream, chop on a windy day. I paddle. My vessel is sapphire blue, waters calm, I drift through lily pads, schools of sunfish, I paddle. My vessel is lapis blue, a diligent paddler's stroke, dragonflies alight on the bow, I paddle. My vessel is azure blue, like the sky's vast expanse, shorelines seem to open wide, I paddle. My vessel is royal blue, narrow passageways lead to docks, I glide to their shore, I paddle. My vessel is cyan blue, it's run aground, dry docked, stored like a precious jewel, idle paddle. My vessel is cornflower blue, like a rooted plant wanting no more than to be watered and wetted, desires a paddle. My vessel is navy blue. In my aqueous dream, I float down canals in Venice, Amsterdam, Paris's tunnel of love. I paddle. My vessel is aquamarine. Placed gently in its cradle, it murmurs the sound of the sea. Surrenders, paddle. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very mellifluous. It made me feel like I was floating around. And I love kayaks because they're palindromes, right? And everyone loves a palindrome. That's the best thing about a kayak. Martha is going to make sure that her internet is stable, but I think it will be fine. So I would like to ask Martha to read her piece for us.
Hi, everybody. I think it's the first time that I've read here. I want to thank Mark because he is going to, at some point, be publishing my book, Wind Eyes. So I thank him for that. And the poem I'm going to read is a cento or a cento, depending on your language preference. I'll just give you a quick list of those whom I've stolen. Jack Gilbert, John Wieners, Marianne Moore, Ann Carson, Jay Hopler, Adam Zagajewski, Philip Levine, William Carlos Williams, Louise Gluck, Ada Limon, Camus, Adelaida Lopez Mejia, Charles Olson, Baudelaire, Dylan Thomas, and Shakespeare. So it's quite a long list. There's 3 basic parts. So this is Cento for the Mutilated World, and it's a love poem in poetry written between the November election and the present state of things. Okay. So we are all burning in time, but each is consumed in the bounds of white and heartless fields, dots of cyclamen red and maroon. This morning, with a blue flame burning, my nerves open to air like something skinned, and the sky, with the steadfast blue, lizards grassed, the grass was lizarding. I am trying to praise the mutilated world, the perfection of all her fruits and vegetables, and the gentle light that strays and vanishes with the wind, over and over, but the bomb has entered our lives to destroy us. There is a hole in the garden. It is empty. I envy it, and the soul creeps out of the tree. This is the barrenness. What if we stood up with our synapses and flesh and said no? If we stopped being terrified? For we know terror is where the only alternative is to kill or be killed, where understanding among us becomes impossible. Leave us alone to love one another, completely naked. Nakedness is what one means. We have a flame within us, burning with a bright glow of electricity. Star points of light flicker into something wild and strange, like prolonged echoes mingling in the distance, down the rivers of the windfall light. In the end, everything is bare. We are ruined choirs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. And if you're going to steal from poets, they're clearly the best ones to steal from. So many good ones there to kind of hear the reminiscences of their lines in your work. Beautiful. Thank you. And we can't end an open mic without the twin stars, Cindy and Bob. Cindy, what have you got from Badass Brooklyn? Maybe you can go down for a hot dog down at Coney Island later on.
I've got two very short poems. The first one is from my book, so I could do a plug. Telling You Everything. It's available on Amazon. Everyone's boycotting Amazon, but don't buy my freaking book, because Cassandra wrote a gorgeous blurb for it. So the poems suck, but Cassandra's blurb is great. This is one of the poems. Leaving the light on for you. Because you're a poet and I'm a poet, our mouths can meet at the edge of the crease between stanzas at the Last Gasp Motel. And I don't know where the Last Gasp Motel is, but probably Coney Island. Actually, they used to have a brothel type hotel, where you'd rent a room for an hour. Not that I ever went, but I passed it by while driving. Anyway, the second poem I happened to write yesterday. It's sort of a haiku. Chanel number 5 is infinitely sweeter than Eau de Musk.
Well, there you have it. She's smart, she's sexy, she knows how to rent a room for an hour. She's everything to us. Cindy from the lounge room. And our final word is always the kitchen laureate, Bob. He always, and I know I say it, but it's always special. It's always something, a little nugget for me to take away for the rest of my Sunday. Bob, will it have bears? Will it have tap dancing? Will you sing? We never know. Is it information? Is it not?
I don't think I ever had a poem with tap dancing, actually.
I was hoping you might tap dance. I was just putting the seed in there of what might come.
Okay, here's something that was written a couple of weeks ago. Across the water. Steps across the water that is no longer blessed. To enter the dark and foreboding, where the whispers become real, and there is no longer a place to dream.
And that's why he's Bob.
Totally. Bob, fantastic one. Love it, love it, love it.
Thanks.
I didn't want to really talk about politics, but I think this is perfect. So the Greek poet Solon, in 600 BC, wrote this poem. Lesson in citizenship. You must obey the law of the land, whether you think it right or wrong. Okay, so what do we make of that? Okay. Wonderful show. Thank you so much, Jason, for pulling all your friends into this wonderful night. Thank you, Jason, again. Thank you, Alison. Thank you, Richard, or
Thanks
Rich,
for having us.
and thank you, Carrie. Wonderful work. Delighted to have you, and I hope you guys will come and see us later as well.
Absolutely.
Mark,
Go for it. Yeah, Jeff?
sorry, our next date is April 28th. Is that correct?
Is that correct, Cassandra?
All right. But anyway, we hope we see you guys. Keep in touch
Yeah,
with Lit
it's in April. The show, which is all about politics, actually.
It's 2 shows, isn't it? It's a
It's a weekend. It's a weekend.
the weekend with Roxy Power and
Well, what's the date? What's the date?
it is April the 25th and 26th.
There we go. You see, we need secretaries. Thank you so much again. Lots of love. Love and poetry to everybody, and we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Just keep on being creative, okay?